Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Tub Takes. We are live and over at Tub Nation TV, and of course, if you're watching on YouTube, well, shoot, I already messed it up. Crazy. It's been a minute. Anyways, we are live on Tub Nation TV, and this is going to be live on YouTube as well. If you can't watch the full podcast here, and I am joined by our three fantastic guests. First and foremost, my co-host Alex. How are you doing?
Howdy, people. I'm eating some peanut butter and apples. Doing well.
Damn, that sounds like a solid meal. We got Jeudy Azzarelli. How you doing?
Hey, I ate drunken noodles, so if my nose is running at any point, it's because it was very spicy. But yeah.
I'm gonna be real. That does not sound nearly as good as the peanuts and apples, but you know.
Wait, what?
And, all right, and then last but not least, we got the one and only Mr. Burns. How you doing?
Hello, I'm doing good. Unfortunately, I do not have any peanut butter and apples or drunken noodles, but I'm doing good.
Yeah. So let's jump into it. So first and foremost, this is Tub Takes. This is the podcast where we talk about VGC and maybe the metagame trends that have been happening in the past, any tournament results, and we give our own scathing hot opinions, really, boiling up the tub. And I guess the first thing I should say is that we had some comments about the audio in the last podcast. Please let us know, like now-ish, if our audio sucks or if there's anything I should adjust before we get too far into it. But the second thing we should talk about is that Liverpool regionals happened this past weekend. We talked about it last time as a preview, and this is the last big Series 1 tournament, and to no one's surprise, Europe got invaded by an American who won the entire tournament. And yeah, so big congrats to Luca Paz for winning Liverpool regionals in, I think, what is his first full year as a master. Of course, he was one of the seniors who aged up during the pandemic, I believe. Yeah, I don't know how much we have to say about this because it is the last Series 1 tournament, and I don't know. I think all of us are kind of looking forward to Orlando Regionals, which is Series 2, a different format. But we should talk about it, even though they are, Europeans. They're British. Alex, you want to kick us off?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh boy, throwing it right to me as I got a big mouthful of apple. But what I will say about this tournament is that, we're definitely still going to give our takes on it. It is unfortunate that we won't get to see this meta develop further, and so the results of this tournament aren't as vital as, like, I don't know, some other tournament at the beginning of a format, which is so funny to say for the second tournament in the format. But yeah, you still talk about the results of Worlds, right? The end of a format, something like that. So Luca's team it honestly surprises me. I'm no Dondozo expert or anything, but one thing that like kind of stood out to me was just like Murkrow and Dondozo. Dondozo already kind of goes fast, and I thought that they handled the mirror in other ways, but Dondozo and Murkrow together is something that I think is interesting to me because otherwise the rest of the team is just a bunch of strong Pokemon that you see on offense. And then the other thing that I really wanted to mention that I think is really cool, especially because I've already been owned by it in my own testing, even in Series 2, is Sleep Talk Tatsugiri. I don't know why I haven't seen more of this. Some of the like most common ways that people deal with Dondozo Tatsugiri is using a Moongus and then KOing Dondozo and trying to spore the Tatsugiri on the same turn. Well, I did that and then immediately got owned by the Sleep Talk. And I think that's just such an awesome tech for dealing with what is like a relatively common Dondozo counterplay.
Yeah, no. I actually played that in my Swiss round, and I thought it was cool, but I didn't really think much about it,
Mm-hmm.
and it won. So, a
Yeah.
very cool development. I think, generally in Series 1, I think I'm glad that Don Dozo actually won something after everyone spent way too much like time talking about it. I know there's like a Japanese tour also recently. I had 7 non-dozos out of 8. So honestly, I'm after seeing that, I'm kind of happy that that series one is ending because I just don't want to play. I'm glad that Don Dozo is being brought down to the power level of everything else, in my opinion.
Dondoso was seen in Top Cut, I think, 10 times out of the 32 teams, and then another 10 from Pelipper, so like rain teams as well.
Yeah,
And then I don't, and then there was like 12 other teams. I remember that was one of the first things I noticed when looking at the teams is I was just like Dondoso, Pelipper, Dondoso, Pelipper, Dondoso, Pelipper, and of course they never overlapped. So, yeah, just 20 out of the 32 teams were either rain or Pelipper, rain or Dondoso.
Yeah, and to agree kind of with what Alex was saying, the sleep talk Tatsugiri, I think was really clever because the like common counterplay to Dondozo, like one of the biggest weaknesses is when you KO Dondozo, you get a free turn to do whatever you want to Tatsugiri with your other Pokemon. And so very commonly people would, knock out the Dondozo and then click Spore with their Amoonguss to put Tatsugiri to sleep, and then it's dead weight on the next turn and potentially a few more. So Sleep Talk definitely, remedies that a little bit, and it seems to have showed off at the regional. I think the second place team was also pretty cool, right? We hadn't seen much Indeedee Armorogue in San Diego's Top Cut. So seeing
Yeah,
it make a deep run in Liverpool was pretty interesting.
I mean, triple psychic combined with triple trick room as well. All three of the psychic Pokemon have trick room, and yeah, I don't know. That was just kind of crazy to me. Obviously, there's some other cool techs on here, mainly looking at Clear Smog Torkoal and Swords Dance on the King Gambit. This team was like really cool. Obviously, to me as a big fan of Hard Trick Room, I was just like, man, I just didn't think that you could do that many Trick Room Pokemon. You're just like, well, I got my one, I got my two. Why stop there? I'm getting a third one in there, and that's just so awesome to me. Armarouge being supported on both ends really heavily here with both of its stabs. It's got Heat Wave and Expanding Force. It also has Psychic. I think that's like actually pretty notable because of the set, getting walled by Wide Guard, and so they made sure to address that and cover that. And yeah, Heat Wave paired with Torkoal, crazy damage, and then Expanding Force obviously with the Indeedee. It's just really it's like one of the best Pokemons to self-support, I guess, in Trick Room. I mean, obviously Torkoal and Indeedee are boosting its damage, but kind of like what we were doing in Series 12, clicking Trick Room with Palkia and Calyrex Ice, if you can make it so that your Pokemon that sets Trick Room is also doing the damage, then you're going to have a lot more momentum when the Trick Room actually goes up. Because if you, say, set your Trick Room with some kind of super passive Pokemon that is very likely to get it up. I don't know. I'm looking at I guess Bronzong or something. That turn one. If Trick Room goes up, that Pokemon is guaranteed to be on the field, and it means that's how you're going to be spending your first turn of Trick Room. You only got 4 turns, so you want to make use of those turns the best you can, and I think Armarouge does that very well.
Yeah, having Trick Room on your offensive Pokemon allows you to run a support next to it to guarantee you get Trick Room up more often.
Hmm.
And then you're able to also do damage as opposed to, if you had a pretty passive Pokemon setting Trick Room, you wouldn't be able to have a second support Pokemon next to it. Otherwise, you'd be getting nowhere with your Trick Room turns.
You can definitely set Trick Room with Indeedee Amoonguss, but then what?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And similarly,
Sorry.
similarly, this team just has no protects. I think someone in chat mentioned that as well, and that is
That,
also
that
just a
was
symptom.
exactly what I was going to bring up too. So
Yeah, I mean, it really is
yeah.
hey, you need to take advantage of your Trick Room turns. You need to have the momentum. This is not a slow, methodical team. You don't have to have the offense on at all times, and you have to be in the right position at all times. And I think that makes it really hard to pilot. Honestly, you do have to play this team very smart. You don't have a lot of room to mess up, but it also just spits out damage, and it's always gonna have the offensive pressure as a result. It has multiple ways to set up Trick Room at any given time, which is really valuable. I think you're going to be having your Ndidi next to your Armarug or your Hatterin a lot, or maybe you're going to have like, obviously like Annihilate doesn't have multiple ways to set up Trick Room, but it gives you multiple different ways to KO something, always. So yeah, just a really well built Trick Room team. Actually, in the team report that released today, which was my team report and Justin's team report from
Oh boy.
from San Diego, we talked. Nick got to talk about why he thought Protect was bad in Series 1, and everyone else kind of walked it back a little bit because of Open Team Sheet. But it is kind of vindicating to see, at least for him, I assume, to see only one, or excuse me, to see 0 Protects do so well at this tournament. And then how many protects did Luca have on his team?
Probably just one.
He also just had one. Yeah, he just had it on Dindozo. So yeah, Protect, maybe not the best move in Series 1. It's something that I think we kind of came to the conclusion of, and we're seeing it. I mean,
maybe it actually is cringe.
Okay, but Maluka did do very well with 5 Protect, so I can't necessarily come to that conclusion. But it is
5 or 6. Which Pokemon didn't have it? I don't know. I can't remember the team.
It was Specs.
So some VGC.
Which one was Specs?
The Goldengo.
Oh, Goldie. Okay, that makes sense.
Some VGC historian is gonna like look back and will be validated on the amount of teams that had multiple protects versus not in Series 1 top cut.
You mentioned VGC historian. I was actually going to mention some VGC history. When we were talking about Sleep Talk on Tatsugiri, I feel like Sleep Talk on Choiced Mons has not been seen in like a long time. I know some people might run in like a Spec Sylveon or something, but the most famous example brings me all the way back to 2016. The team that won, I believe it was Japan Nats. There was like a choice band Talonflame. Maybe it was, it was like a choice band Talonflame with like Brave Bird, Flare Blitz, and Sleep Talk, and no 4th move. It was just like, if you put me to sleep, I want to do one of 2 things. I want to click Brave Bird or Flare Blitz. And that was just like such an awesome set, like 3-move Talonflame. And I just think Sleep Talk is just a really cool way of dealing with sleep. I know we've talked about it already, and something else that I forgot to mention just at the beginning of the tournament, or when you were entering the subject, is that while this is Series 1, this is definitely going to have an impact on how people approach, Series 2. Seeing what did well definitely can still roll over. We saw, even after, San Diego Regionals, even in Series 2, a lot of people were using Garganackle. People were like, okay, this salty guy is pretty crazy. It's a really cool win condition. If you're into that. I don't know. I know Jeudy and I are just like snoring, just like this guy puts me to sleep. But
literally, I zoned out.
You don't put him to sleep, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and then I think it's very real that we might just see people take these Series 1 teams and try to just like port them over, make some upgrades. We might see some size spam teams in Series 2 with some of the Paradox Pokemon added. Dondozo not going to go anywhere, especially after winning the most recent major. So I think that there's still definitely a lot to take away from looking at these teams, even though it's for a different format, a format that it's still not even over. Like, we've technically still got like a week until this thing actually like goes live. But that's just the nature of series. As soon as it's announced, that's what you're playing. That's what you got to focus on. That's what you do now.
Mm-hmm. And I think like you mentioned, Dondozo, we all know, looking forward to Series 2. It's not going anywhere. It's been doing well in these not practice tours, in the grassroots tours. Same with Palafin, has been all over the place. It's not going anywhere. It's maybe the 2nd or 3rd most used archetype in this format, and it's going to be maybe not that high usage because it does have some more counterplay, but it's going to be up there in Series 2. Volcarona was something that didn't see a ton of play at San Diego. It had 7 uses in top 32, including some very, very high placing finishes in this tournament, and so that's another Pokemon that I've seen in the practice tours as well, doing really well, grassroots tours, excuse me, and so those are some Pokemon that I think like you can build your teams around, and you can still build the teams around. They're still well positioned, and the way that we learn how to use them, like, is going to translate. Even though we're going to have these like higher power creep formats, it's still going to just be about how do we actually build a team around these Pokemon? What tools do we have to support them? And like what tools go well with them? And then those tools might change. The like fast water type that you put next to Goldengo might change to Iron Bundle instead of Tauros like on our team, or something like that. Or like your Intimidate Mon might become something else. Your bulky Fire type might become something else. Your Ghost type might go from Goldengo to Fluttermane. But I think that in general, like a lot of these team structures are going to stay the same because a lot of the ways that you win games, be it Dondozo, be it Palafin, be it Volcarona, be it Goldengo, all these like powerful threats, Baxcalibur, the way we build around those Pokemon, are going to kind of stay the same, and we're going to learn from the results from Liverpool for sure.
I'm just like scrolling through the teams overall, and it is just Pelipper everywhere, dude. This guy is just all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like the coolest team that like stuck out to me if like Series 1 continues is the fact that there was 2 Glamoras in top 4. I think Francisco's team is really cool, but like it's hard to like want to talk about it and like go in depth. There are pieces that I think do move over. I think that Hard Trick Room is something I want to see in Series 2, but it is hard. Like we mentioned, like so many of the NA players already have been focused on Series 2 for like what, the last 2 weeks now.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically where my brain is at. Like it's like one of my first times actually like scrolling through this stuff because I was just like so focused on Series 2. So it's actually interesting to look back on this, and there are some bits. I mean, even Meluka built his team based off of previous bits, so I think it is still important to, like you guys mentioned, to look at Series 1 stuff. But yeah. My brain is just so Series 2 right now.
I'm in the exact same way. Like I'm just looking at all this and I'm just like, well, this is gonna be like, cool, but Series 2. I was wondering, do we know exactly what Series 2 runs from? It starts like February 1st and goes until the end of March. Like April would be new format, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 months.
At least.
2 month cycle.
So we have.
So like how many events are in that one? Because I know there's a lot of majors, like the ones that people have been registering for coming up are going to be in that. So like there was obviously Orlando, we've talked about plenty. Then there's the whole Internet's Oceania. After that is Knoxville.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Knoxville.
Is Vancouver? That one was registered. Is that in Series 2?
It is, and then Charlotte is in Series 2 as well, and I believe that's all of the North American events.
Okay. I'll just head over to the regional page and see how many events like Europe has, because and I guess if there's any other
I think there's a regional in Brazil happening.
Yeah, I remember the Brazil one getting announced recently, and that it was that the signups were going for that one soon or something.
Europe has Bochum regionals in Germany, and then the Utrecht special event as well. And then Latin America has the Natal, which is like the Eastern Brazil one that's literally as far away from everywhere else in Latam as you can physically get. And then there's
literally like closer to Africa than some places in Brazil.
Mm-hmm. And then there is one in Perth in Australia as well. So we got a decent number of regionals coming up all over the world.
Wow, yeah, no, that is crazy. Oh yeah, I see people mentioning the Fort Wayne one. That's gonna be nuts. I'll be there. I'm actually the defending champ for Fort Wayne. They like took that one away for a couple years. I won that back in 2017, but then they moved it.
Didn't they announce a Fort Wayne regional in 2020 before the circuit got canceled?
Yeah, I think that was the thing. Is like in 2018,
title for a while.
The 2018 year, they took away Fort Wayne, and I was like, I guess I'm your Fort Wayne regional champion forever. Like that. This one's locked up, and then
I thought they had it during the season that got canceled due to COVID, and then and then when events came back, they like had it in Indianapolis instead. So
Yeah, no, that's what I was gonna go on to say is that then 2020 came around, or in 2020 I was like, oh no, I have to defend it, and then the season got canceled, and I was like, I'm your champion forever again, and
Was
then
Fort Wayne the last event for Series 2?
Fort Wayne is the
no,
first event for Series 3.
it's the first event for Series 3. In fact, it's
Oh,
like so fresh. I mean, it says March 31st is the first day, but what date is March 31st?
It should
That
be
is
Friday, right?
that's
Friday.
Friday, and so Saturday is the first, the tournament, the day you're actually competing. So like, yeah, no, the format will not even be like unless you stay up until midnight, you're not even going to be able to play in game with the format. Oh
that's
my god,
insane.
yeah, no, the format is going to be so baby, so it's going to be so crazy. Um,
So
we're
baby.
we're going to be we're losing the plot a little bit. But yeah,
You can tell how much we
We're
all want to
jumping the
talk
gun.
about Series 1.
I want to talk
We're
about
jumping
Series
the gun
3.
and trying to talk about Series 3.
I'm ready to talk about Series 3.
Okay, so we'll bring us back a little bit to talk about Series 1 a little bit more because Evan Smoke, aka VGC Pastes, or the brainchild behind that, sent us a bunch of really cool resources to look at, including the Team Explorer that we kind of showed off for San Diego, so we can look at like usage stats for each individual Pokemon and how they break down. So, for example, Pelipper, only 2 people caught on to the super secret tech of Terra Fairy Pelipper. That is game breaking, in my opinion. Stuff like that. So, this is a really cool tool that you can play around with. I guess I can link in chat. And then we also have the Terra types counter. And we have the overall usage statistics. Is there any of that stuff that y'all want to talk about?
Let's see. So
Not see the
just got to mention this tool is just like so dope. It's just so cool that you can just like check all these boxes to like all right, I'm sorry. I don't want to poke too much fun, but Ani, are you on the Pelipper page?
I was, yeah. I can go back.
Go back, look at the abilities.
Okay. Yeah. No. There are some like errors I saw. Like obviously the drizzle here, hydro pump being.
Oh wait, there's
misspelled.
2 hydro pumps.
There's 2 hydro pumps.
Well, I wonder if that was the same person's like team sheet who just like couldn't spell anything.
I think they might have just inputted
No.
it wrong. I think it was all inputted manually. I know I saw like
That would make sense.
Amoonguss has Dark Pulse as one of his Terra types instead of Dark. So I think a lot of effort, a lot
Probably
of, like,
some kind of autocomplete stuff. Yeah, that makes sense.
a lot of manual data entry probably goes into this, and we
Yep.
really appreciate it, even if it's like not perfect. And
No, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Man, I'm looking at Goldengo now, #1 Pokemon, and they were all only 2 different Terra types. Obviously, Steel, very popular. But the 3 that chose not to were all flying. I don't know. There's not a lot of options for defensive Terra on Goldengo. Flying definitely strong, especially on teams that want to be spamming like Earthquake and what have you. But Steel is just like already such a solid type defensively for Goldengo because it drops 2 of its previous weaknesses, right? Just 2, right? Ghost and Dark, which are like probably the most common types that you're hitting it with. And as we've seen, Goldengo very popular on rain teams. You can cover the fire weakness that way, and you're really only leaving yourself open to ground type attacks. Those are like the main ones that you still have to worry about. And oftentimes the rain teams have ways to cover for that. Whether it's having the double flying Pelipper and Salamis and Dragonite. You've also got tools like Wide Guard from the Pelipper. I just think that's it's a really cool way to look at Goldengo and say that Steel, one of its stab typings, is still a defensive Terra type. I think it is just one of the most efficient Terra types in the game.
No, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I think that it's really so cool because, like, someone who took like a long ass hiatus is just how much information we got thanks to people like Evan and like all of the VGC pay stuff. Because like usually I would wait for someone else to spoon feed me this data, like a friend, and now there's just like one place I can go to and just get spoon fed all of this data. And like I'm as someone who is sometimes lazy, I'm very happy with this.
The game is very different than it was back in 2015, Jody. There is so many different resources available
There's
to
literally
you.
tournaments every day, kinda.
Right? Yeah, that's the thing. The meta develops so much faster, and so that's something very different. You know, an online tournament win used to mean a lot more because there was probably like one or two a year or something. You know, like but now it's just like there's several tournaments every week. We'll be talking about them like every week because like that's what's pushing the meta. Is these tournaments where you get to see like what's doing well, what's rising to the top, and you don't even have to waste time waiting for the next major event when there's a 400 plus online, 400 plus entry tournament being held like every week.
Like yeah, it's really cool. I this tool is cool. I know that as it gets more refined, I'm definitely after every tournament going to be like, okay, I need to look at this, need to see what's happening, like the little in-depth bits. And it's only going to get better as time goes on, which is like super sick. I'm very excited for that.
True. Yeah, Evan brings up a good point. Is that one of the main things that is making data collection even crazier now? Open team sheets. That is actually like such a large factor.
Especially since like top cut team lists get published online.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
I
And I think that Victory Road, or whoever the organizers for Liverpool, at least did some amount of analysis with all of their data. Because if you look at the usage statistics that we have, that I think came from Victory Road, who streamed it, we have all of the data for the entire metagame, as well as the top 128 and the entire top cut. And that's really cool to see. They are very, very similar numbers in terms of percentages. If anything, as per usual, when we look at like showdown statistics, the top Mons only got higher usage among the top teams. But yeah, I mean, it's really cool to see regional organizers release not all the team sheets, but at least the usage statistics. I know that Arcanine Labs has done this for TCG regionals, I think, and also Pokemon Go events where they've released a lot of data regarding the team lists. And so I'd love to see that come out for American regionals starting in Series 2 because that amount of data really can help drive decision making when you're looking forward to more tournaments in that same format.
Something else that man, wait, no, it's slipped my mind. Something I wanted to mention about. Nope, it's gone. It's gone completely. It's gone. All right, you know what? I was reading chat, trying to make sure that we're not missing anything. Nope. Thought's gone. Thought's gone.
Okay.
Oh, it was the stream. It was the stream. There we go. So you were talking about Victory Road, and I gotta say that one thing I really liked when I was tuning into the stream was that they put on the screen in the lead up to the match the open team sheets. I think they did it for Swiss too, but I definitely know that they were doing it for Top Cut, and that I think is very important for the viewers and the commentators too. When I was listening to the commentary, were addressing things that were not yet like quote unquote revealed on the stream because that's just the game we play now with Open Team Sheet, and I think that that's really cool to see. I think they did a great job dealing with Open Team Sheet on the Victory Road stream, and that's something that I would like to see done on the mainstream because I don't believe they were showing the Open Team Sheets on the mainstream, right, on Pokemon's for San Diego.
They were not.
And so that's something that's really cool to me, just because like if you're the viewer and you're seeing all these plays being made, like one of the most common examples I can think of is just like an Amoonguss is just never sporing a certain Pokemon, and it's just been open to spore this whole time. Like an Indeedee is just sitting there across from the Amoonguss for all these turns, and you're like, why haven't they spored it? Why haven't they spored it? Well, if you see before the game that the Indeedee has safety goggles, then you're just like that. All your answers are there. Then you just like know, like, okay, no, these decisions are all making a lot more sense to me. And I think that that's just something really important going forward for Open Team Sheet tournaments is that you can't just watch a set without knowing all of the decisions that are going into the play-by-play. And so then the commentators did a good job talking about that too. Just like, like, okay, this Pokemon's wearing an assault vest. That's why we know that it takes that hit so well, instead of having to, beat around the bush and be like, wow, that Pokemon took it very well, like, yeah, it's just all out there. And I think that's just like, they did a really good job. So shout outs to them for the stream. The stream is great. And yeah, I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to add for Series 1, but Series 1, it's exhausting. My head's in a completely different space.
I do have something to talk about for the stream.
Go
I
ahead.
do think the team sheets showing before the match was really good. They did do that in Swiss, by the way. I think it would be kind of cool if, when like turns are being played out, if they could like just throw up a quick, like a small graphic just showing like the Pokemon on the field. You can show their sets and like
True.
specifically.
That would be
I think
awesome.
that would be really cool. I think you just have to find a way to fit it on the overlay.
Yeah.
Surely that's possible. You can fit it at the top or the bottom, or
Well, you got to fit 4 on the screen, right?
yeah. But you can do that. I think you could do like how like news channels will have like a little like a scrolling headline at the bottom or whatever. You could just have you could have one at the top for like the opposing player, one at the bottom for like the actual player. And
That's true. If you can post the entire team sheet just entirely vertically and hand it to a player, surely you can do it horizontally too, right?
That is exactly how they're printing it, huh?
Okay, there's one more thing I want to talk about for Liverpool because, again, Evan gave us all these cool resources to play with. One is at the end of the VGC paste repository, there is the EMS Terra type research, which shows both for San Diego and for Liverpool top cut what the most common Terra types were for each Pokemon as well as overall. And Nick is going to be pissed, but it turns out that Terra Grass was actually the single most common Terra type in Liverpool top cut, followed by Steel, Water, and then a huge drop off after that. So really it seems like to me, and this is going to be something that is metagame dependent, but also is probably going to persist over the course of Series 2, and then maybe further depending on what the formats actually are. Terra Grass, Terra Steel, and Terra Water are just by far the most common Terra types in the metagame right now.
I think Fire is also going to just get more common as we go, because we just got introduced to the Paradox Pokemon. Looking at Fluttermane, it's a very big Pokemon, and Resisting Fairy has just gotten even stronger. On top of the fact that Terra Fire is one of the types that comes with a sick status immunity in the immune to burn. Will-O-Wisp, still a very common move for damage reduction. And I think, Spore is another very common move for controlling the board, and that's why you see Terra Grass all the way up there. I think that those 4 Terra types are, honestly, like, I'm looking at the top 6, and I don't see those changing much. I think Fairy is a bit meta-dependent, but I think that all of the types, not 6, 7, all the way down to Ghost, if you're looking at the page I am on. I imagine you still have it up there. But those 7 types are probably, they're just like by far the ones that I think get you the most utility. Terra Grass comes with a free safety goggles, as you will, a Spore immunity, and I think Fire, Water, Grass are going to be always in the top 3, 4 or so, just because Fire, Water, Grass cores are common, Fire, Water, Grass Pokemon are common, and turning into a different type from that, that revolving circle, that whatever you want to call it, that loop, that type circle, the thing, that turning into like the next type or the in the circle, almost always is going to be strong defensively. Like it's just because fire moves are good on grass, and so turn into a water type. It's going to be a natural thing. I think in any format that we play, and then Steel, of course, up there because I don't know if you guys heard that Steel resists like 11 types or something like that.
Steel, famously the only type to be, or one of the only types to ever be nerfed.
Yup.
In losing its Dark and Ghost resists.
What other
Psychic
types have
also
been
lost its
majorly
Ghost
nerfed?
immunity.
Was
Okay,
Psychic
that was a
immune to
bug.
Ghost?
That was a bug.
What?
That was not. They were not supposed to do that.
What are some other types that got nerfed, Birds? Do you have a bit of history for us?
I don't know.
I think that there was there were definitely some early changes between Gen 1 and 2, but like I think the most notable is Steel getting nerfed because that was like done in more
Like
modern
Gen 5.
generations, Like yeah, exactly. So they yeah. No, wait, no, was it Gen
Not just like a direct, like an indirect nerf, like because they made fairy type
Yeah.
and to nerf dragons, but they didn't actually directly touch like existing interactions with dragon type.
Mm-hmm. And so then, just to like kind of wrap the other types that I think will be consistent throughout is like flying. Flying, I think, is going to be probably not super universally popular, but like ground type is just always a good type offensively. And so, being able to create an earthquake partner for a Pokemon clicking earthquake is really cool. Being able to make yourself immune to earthquakes is also really cool. And then Dark and Ghost come with more handy immunities that are always going to be incredibly meta relevant. The Ghost one making you immune to Fake Out, as well as certain other priority moves. I mean, the type has two immunities, so you're immune to fighting moves as well, but immune to Fake Out, Extreme Speed, Mach Punch, Close Combat. Those are all very important. And then Dark, we'll have to see how prevalent pranksters are in the meta, but Dark obviously coming with two immunities, I guess, in itself. It's got the Psychic immunity and the Prankster immunity. So, I mean, I'm just looking at those like top 7 types, and while I know 7 is like getting close to half the type chart, I think that those 7 just provide so much more than a lot of the other types. And there are certain ones that you're just like very rarely going to see unless it's a stab one for like offense purposes, like Ice and Rock. I know Ice and Rock are like famously very bad types.
So I can actually see water falling off a little bit. Maybe not out of the top 7, but I don't think it'll be top 3. It won't be like as generically good as it was in Series 1. And the reason for that, spoiler alert, but we have a little Pokemon called Iron Bundle that can use Freeze Dry very effectively, and tearing to water is gonna keep you weak to that. So you can actually Terra into a water type to like protect him.
If you're a grass type and you're debating between Terra Water and Terra Fire, you might tend towards Terra Fire.
Bundles Ice and Water. My back? I think I.
You might have cut out. Yeah.
What was I like? What's the last thing you heard from me?
Nothing important.
No, I was talking about just Terra.
You're talking about Freeze Dry.
Just
Yeah, I was talking about Freeze Dry.
I think you got the.
Oh yeah, Freeze Dry is a headache. Freeze Dry is just like it does break a lot of interactions. Like you look at like, okay, how do I resist ice? Water? No. Dragon? No. Ice? You don't want to be an ice type.
I mean, so.
And then steel. I mean, steel does still resist it. I think there's maybe one other type that I'm forgetting that can still resist freeze dry.
Yeah. The problem is those tears. If you want a tear to resist ice, you have to take neutral damage from water, which Bundle has in Hydro Pump.
Yeah, Hydro Pump freeze dry is basically perfect coverage, right? Like, I mean, like you have to have a dual type to be able to take that, and Terra will not save you. Terra cannot possibly save you. It is not possible.
Yeah, God.
Or like an ability. You could also like Terra into a fire type on your Gastrodon.
That's true. Yeah, Terra Fire Gastrodon, I guess, or starting.
Wait. Oh, I think maybe the sheet's just broken on Gastrodon. Adi, are you looking at the Terra type sheet?
Yeah, there's 5 Gastros, 3 Steel.
No, I'm looking at the right side. The summary.
Because there was no Gastros in San Diego top 32.
Oh, is that what it is? Oh,
yeah. Because it's comparing them from their usage in.
Oh, am I looking at San Diego on the right?
San Diego's on the right.
Oh.
Liverpool's on the left.
You know what?
The one that
I got
I've been
myself messed
mesmerized with is the San Diego Tauros being 3 grass, 3 water, 3 fire. I found that very funny. I definitely get a little giggle wondering what players are doing with that mon then.
Oh man, when I was talking about my top 7 types, I was talking about the San Diego types. Fire is down that low.
Yeah.
I guess it's just because there was so much rain.
Mm-hmm. and like Dondozo, and I think a lot of things want to resist the top two archetypes. So it does make sense, and I think Fire probably would be higher in a more stable metagame, less centralized metagame.
So yeah, I was mostly talking about San Diego. Sorry for that confusion earlier, but like the other 6 remain the same, I guess, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I think the poison also like kind of a low one, and I think that like it's fun. It's funny to look at Garganackle in San Diego. There's only one poison type Garganackle, and a lot more of them have been shifting to poison now because of that. That's just really cool to see. Yeah.
I also think that King Gambit going from only one Terragrass, of course being the one and only Soulstar VGC, going to and who told us in the team report that apparently no one watched, that he only did it because of a team sheet error. He forgot to change it back, and he had to like get the Terra charge the day of the regional. And of course, apparently no one who used his team watched the team report because there were 6 Terragrass King Gambit in top cut at Liverpool.
My bad.
Yeah, no, I had the correct version of Jeudy's team at the tournament. So
Jeudy just wanted to sabotage everyone's Liverpool teams.
Clearly, it didn't work because 6 of y'all.
Yeah, no, there's no stopping it. It just rises to the top.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, so those were all the comments that I had about Liverpool regionals. Did anyone else have anything else they wanted to talk about with respect to Liverpool?
Man, this Terra type sheet is actually so interesting. I love it. This is so cool.
Yeah.
I also just think, as an aside, like I just want to ask around. I mean, like it's still so young, but like Terra as a mechanic, like I just think Terra is so dope. I think that like it feels like we got like a 5th move slot or something. Like this feels like the most flexibility you've had over team building in years, and I think Terra is so deep. There's so much to it that
It
like we're
feels
barely
like-
scratching the surface on it. Go ahead, Burns.
Like the most interactive mechanic we've had by like a mile.
Yeah, that it's so interesting. Like that's the thing is like Terra is one of the like I know that like Dynamax was a resource that you could bait out of your opponent early in the game, but Terra feels like such a cool mechanic in gameplay as well. Like if you can make your opponent Terra on turn 1 and you're still holding your Terra, then for the rest of the game exactly what types you're dealing with, whereas your opponent always has to deal with this uncertainty of like, are they going to Terra this Pokemon or this Pokemon or this Pokemon? And there's just so much value in like trying to achieve those kinds of situations, forcing your opponent to Terra. And man, I just think it's so interesting, so much fun. I don't know, Jeudy, what do you think of Terra? I don't care about you, Adi. We'll get to you.
Jody looks like he's a little busy right now.
Okay, then.
No. Okay, my thing is dying, and I forgot to put it on the plug. But before that, because this is actually, I think Terras are like so cool. Like you noted your surprise when you saw Fire drop from like 19 to 5, and it's like it's so cool that like you can use a mon and then like based on meta trends, choose a Terra type that fits better. We saw like Poison getting usage. Poison's getting way more usage in Series 2. Fire as well now. And I think that's just water dropping. I think it's like super cool that we're allowed to do that and make certain mons that at base value would struggle, but because you can change the type, it's like it adds that extra dimension that I feel like Dynamax didn't do that, like they did in a fun way that a lot of other mechanics didn't do.
It almost does the opposite of what Dynamax does, where Dynamax made it so that you could be a little more ignorant. You could click your buttons and not have to worry about what your opponent could do because you were always KOing with max airstream plus like earthquake or whatever. And now you have to play more risk averse because at any point once per game your opponent can say, I'm going to resist your attack. And I guess we're going to talk about some Series 2 tournaments, but I just had that dynamic really clearly in one of my games in a Series 2 tournament I played last week, where it was like, okay, Iron Bundle in front of Terra Grass Arcanine, and we both led Iron Bundle Arcanine, both had Terra Grass Arcanine, And it was like, okay, well, do you take your one free turn with Arcanine and spend your Terra, or do you switch out? And what if they call the switch out? Like, what if they read it? What if they read your Terra? And so you have to like play really risk aversely. You are incentivized to not read a Terra type early in the game, at least, because if you still have your Terra and your opponent doesn't, even if you fall behind a little bit, you can usually catch back up. It rewards like long-term planning, because a lot of times if you change one of your Pokemon's types correctly after knocking out like one Pokemon or identifying one threat, then you can kind of take over the game that way. So I just think it has a lot of depth to it, and it creates a lot of really interesting games, both strategically long-term as well as on a micro level decision-making short-term. And the way that those two things play together, where you have to weigh the benefits of getting one turn right at the expense of losing this entire mechanic for the rest of the game, just makes it so interesting to me and has made it a lot of fun to play with.
It's a good team building mechanic. It's a good gameplay mechanic. It's just so sick. Pokemon has been so much fun. Nails' comment was really cool because he said, you get to bring 8 Mons to each game, and that is like kind of true. And also like to throw it back to what Jeudy was saying, like you get to like build for like the trends in the meta, and so I think that it's really cool that you can still be using the same Pokemon and yet make it so different just by clicking a box and saying, you turn into this type now, yeah.
Feeding it 50 Terra shards that you work so hard to get from your
Yep.
raids.
Yep. I mean, that is the part that is gross for sure.
One thing I like a lot, like y'all said, it's a very high depth mechanic, very like I think it rewards defensive play very well, because you can like, okay, I have to worry about this Terra. I'm like, if I'm like trying to win with offense, I have to worry about resists. So a lot of times I'm asking myself, what can I do to improve my board state without having to go all in on Terra? And I have to think about switching. Do I stay in? Do I use my Terra? It's like there's lots of questions like that you have to answer. It's a very like deep puzzle you have to solve. On the flip side, I do appreciate that games are a lot less reliant on the mechanic as the games were on Dynamax in Gen 8. A lot of times in like Sword and Shield, if you get to the end of the game and you're like, oh, I didn't even use my Dynamax, it's probably because you just it was a blowout. But I think it's possible, or like it's very possible to have very close like long drawn out games where you don't use your Terra, and it's not just because you didn't need to because you were just so dominant. It's just that that it wasn't necessary, that the right opportunity didn't come up to use your Terra.
Yeah, you game planned around it, and you had like this fallback plan of like, this is what I'm going to Terra if I get to this end game, but it didn't come up. You can just play regular Pokemon.
And I think that is another sign of a healthy mechanic. 1 second.
No, yeah. I'm very excited to continue seeing the meta. And I just know there's going to be like a Terra that's going to be like, that pops up that is going to be really cool, like Meluka did with Poison. So I'm very excited. And we get a lot more tournaments in Series 2 for a lot more meta development. So very excited.
Poison, I think, Terra Poison's really interesting to me because like it was on nobody's radar. It's like you wouldn't think of it as a good defensive type, but you're only weak to 2 things, right? Is it just grounded psychic?
And guess what? It is just that, and you can further reduce it to just 1 if you just Terra Poison your Earthworm. Poison Earthworm has 1 weakness because of the Terra.
Yeah, so does Terra Poison. Poison Electros, right? Has no weaknesses.
Or just any Levitate mon. But yeah, Terra Poison Electros is cool, but it's not as cool as Terra Electric Electros because that guy has no weaknesses.
Terra Electric Electros is cool, but it's not as cool as Terra Fire Electros.
Terra Fire also has no weaknesses, and that's just because of the Terra.
Okay, So I guess moving on to the next topic, and this I'm going to let Justin kick us off with because I guess two of you guys are going, but Justin tweeted about it. Oceania had its international championships registrations come up. That, of course, is a tournament that is happening in, I think, 3 weeks now. It's coming up pretty quickly. And apparently, the VG cap is 200. Justin, you want to talk about that?
So, just jumping in really quick. Also, is Justin there? Hello, Justin.
My internet has been kind of like cutting out.
Okay, let me just jump in really quick. But yeah, I have the page open right now, and it says that there are 266 players registered. We don't know what the split is on that age division wise. If that's like 200 masters and the 66 are from other divisions or what have you. But yeah, Justin, go ahead and take it away if you're there.
Yeah, so registration went up yesterday at about 5 p.m. Eastern time and 9 a.m. Australian time on like Monday. So that was like a time when a lot of like Australians getting up, going to work, going to school. I don't really know what they're doing this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when I had to help Nick sign up, and so I helped him sign up, and I saw the numbers, and it was like 100 something, and I was like, oh, it was kind of slow. And then so I log out, I log in, register on mine. I get registered. About like 20 minutes later, we start seeing tweets from people that it's like capped. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of alarming because you look on the page and it was like, at the time it was like 237. So the speculation was that the cap was 200 for Masters specifically. And that means if everyone shows up, we're only one player off. We're still one player off from like getting the bump up in cash prizes.
Mm-hmm.
So as it stands, the winner will receive, is it $3,000 instead of 5,000?
That sounds right, but I don't remember for certain.
Won't be getting 5,000 if we don't have like.
What were the championship point implications as well? I thought that was like around that number.
It bumps up at 200. So everyone has to show up for us to get. It's like at 200, it increases to top 64 get CP. So
and no one
otherwise
ever,
just
you never
52.
get everyone showing up when you're traveling to an international tournament, right? Like it's people have flight delays or whatever, and they have to get all the way around the world to get here. For a lot of people, at least 24 people, if not more, have to travel around the world to get here. Like there's going to be people who no show because of flight delays or getting sick or whatever. 200 people signing up means you're going to have like 180 maybe actually play, if not less than that. And
that is like optimistic, yeah, 180. Like if it is at 200, yeah.
And there's like a bunch of kickers that are in that 200 to 228 range. I think 227 gives you day 2 Swiss, if I recall correctly. And
that's correct.
I don't know, like it's mind blowing to me that we are having tournaments with 500 plus players. This is an international championship. Like I get it if you put the cap at 500 and only 300 people sign up, like okay, sure, but for a tournament that is this big, that is a flagship tournament for the organization, you would hope that they can get a venue space that is big enough to fit more than 200 VGC players and like 500 TCG players. Like surely, even if it doesn't fill.
I mean, yeah, TCG's 452. That's really low for them. That's
so,
like.
Did they cap?
Yeah, TCG capped.
I have to imagine they capped. Yeah, like that. So I think people were bringing this number up, and maybe Justin knows, but wasn't the last Oceania internet bigger than this?
Yes, it was bigger. I think the cap for last. I've heard like people say the cap for last Oceania was 500. They only got like 550 or 250 or something. But like I wouldn't have a problem with them lowering the cap, but like lowering the cap to a number that's lower than the numbers you got last year, after like on a game that sold more than Sword and Shield, and is like more like significantly more popular than like Sword and Shield was, in terms of competitive. It's just crazy to me.
Yeah. I'm kind of flabbergasted just thinking about that. Like, it's crazy. Like, I'm like, here we are. Like, well, we have like what 700 players plus
for
for
Orlando.
Orlando.
Yeah,
And I'm
Yeah.
like, and into I'm expecting, even though it is in Australia, I'm expecting it to hit a big number. I'm sure the TCG players are definitely right. I don't follow any TCG player, but like both of those numbers are definitely crimes.
yeah. I mean, this is supposed to be like the first big major in Australia. I don't think they've had any other tournaments there
Right.
yet, and um,
And this is like this is the only tournament in this stipend period. Um, so if you're in Oceania and you didn't get into this tournament, that's it. You don't have a chance at a getting like you don't have a chance at a day two race, let alone stipends to the next internets.
got to worry about worlds too. Like internets pay out so much championship points. That's like your big ticket
There's only two
event.
Australian regionals announced so far, and
That's
they're on opposite sides of the country. Um, you have to
yeah.
get if you don't go to internets, you have to get top 8 at both at least to get your world's invite in Australia, even with a 200 bar.
Somebody mentioned that the sign up time went live at 6 a.m. for like the west coast of Australia. So just so insane. And I like so Justin and I got travel awards to this event, which meant that we like got an email saying that our like spots were secured for like 48 hours to make sure that we sign up.
Supposedly, I
Um,
didn't take any. We didn't take any chances.
no, I signed up right away. But I think that one thing that I'm looking at is like they with the number of like travel awards to the event, like there's like um, people coming from all the different regions, Europe and Latin America and the U.S. There's so many spots going to foreign players that this event being so small for the people that are actually in Australia, that's just so crazy, so sad because this is supposed to be their internets. Like they it should have been so much larger because like it's supposed to be this big thing. It's gonna like I just can't imagine how many entrants we could have seen if we didn't see such a limiting cap.
And like,
Yeah, and I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but like Audie said, this is the organization's flagship event, ESL Australia.
Hmm.
I mean I don't know what kind of contract they have with TPCI. If I'm like in charge and I see this, I'd make sure if once their contract runs out, I wouldn't want to work with that organizer again. Like
Hmm.
it's just embarrassing. I think.
right. Like, I kind of get something like Secaucus regionals, right? That signed up last year with COVID restrictions, which are, presumably, I don't know much about Australia right now, but like, presumably they have loosened up just like America has a little bit. They, like, I got understood that Secaucus was very limited because one, New Jersey, very expensive area to host a tournament in, and two, you had these space limitations in terms of how close you could sit to people, and then three, like it is, I don't know, like it makes sense that they had a somewhat limited number of registrations for that type of tournament. This is an international championship. You can't call it that. You just can't call it that and then cap it, saying, "Oh yeah, we're not going to let more than like 1,000 people into the building." Period. Like, you really should have extra space for internets. Internets are always, whenever someone asks me, whenever people say like, "Hey, I'm into VGC. I can go to like one event this year. Which one should I go to?" I always say go to an internets because internets are the ones that have the fun stuff to do. They have all this incredible setup. I haven't been to an internet outside of North America, but I assume that they're very similar in terms of having all these other things that aren't just the tournament. They have 3 days of playing. You get it on Thursday, and everyone's hanging out on Thursday. You go get your stuff on Thursday, play on Friday, hopefully play on Saturday. Get to watch finals on Sunday. It's this huge event. You really like to let everyone into the building, let everyone like who wants to compete and enjoy this event. Especially everyone, like Alex said, from the home region. It is just such a shame. I get it if it was a regional. If you said Perth regionals had a cap of 100, I'd be like, yeah, okay, sure, whatever. Maybe various limitations. This is an internet. Like, I'm just repeating myself,
Yep.
but I'm just so upset.
Yeah, no, it's very upsetting. This is just like ridiculous, and as Kunal was saying in the chat, they like have responded to some people like saying like, "Hey, this is really limiting for the TCG. Can we get more TCG spots?" And they're saying like, we'll see what we can do, but they haven't said anything in response to VGC. So things are not looking good. My copium is that they forgot to announce like, "Oops, that was just the first wave of signups. Don't worry, there'll be more." They've been doing waves of they've been doing waves of signups for some of the European events, but no, this is just a crime. It's going to be just like such a like hollow event of like what they could have been. Could have been so
It's
insane.
just a kick in the face to a region that's
Yep.
already been shafted so many times. Like,
Oh, sure.
I mean, like LATAM probably has it worse. We can get to that, later.
Yep.
But Oceania has been marred by problems for years, and it's like it just seems to there's always a new problem every year.
All right. We done venting? Anything else on this topic?
No, I think that's good.
All right. Let's talk about what I think everyone is here for, which is Series 2. So, obviously, Series 1 is officially over. And by officially over, I mean unofficially over. There's still like a week and a half of it. But we have a few Series 2 grassroots tournaments that we wanted to talk about. Again, huge thanks to VGC Pace for putting together this really cool usage statistics that looks at, I think, every single limitless tournament, and not only tells us overall usage out of almost over 1,000 teams, the top cut usage and cores and the most common cores and most common teams. I think this is super cool. And then we also have a couple of individual tournaments that we wanted to go over. I guess we can start with the individual tournaments. I think that makes a little more sense, and then we can work our way back to overall usage statistics. So we can look at the Beanie Brawl that happened last Wednesday. He's been hosting tournaments, I think, every Wednesday, and I think there's another one, not only this Wednesday, but also one on Saturday, I want to say. Not entirely sure, but there's a couple tournaments hosted by Beanie upcoming. And I played in this one. I did. And if you look at the Swiss standings, you can see me down here in 10th place. I went 6-1, and I did not top cut. It was a Wednesday evening, so yeah, I'm pretty sure that it probably ended at like 3 a.m. after top cut probably ended like 3 or 4 a.m. Central Time. I got off work and started playing and got done at midnight with 7 rounds of Swiss, so it was a very long tournament. And 2 X1s missed cut, which isn't the best format, but I think he said that for future tournaments it's going to be enough rounds that all X1s make top 8 cut. So that's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. But I personally used, if you look at the repository, you look at the single most common team that you saw, I took the most common team. I think Alex streamed with that same team and did pretty well with it, but nothing special on the team.
Me?
What?
Oh, you did pretty well with it. I was like,
I did pretty well
with
it.
No.
Yeah. But like, it's not a sexy team by any means. It's just probably some of the best mons, and you put it together and you play games because I just need to play games and practice this format. I didn't put a ton of thought into it, especially because I didn't put the team together in the first place. But yeah, let's talk about the rest of the tournament, the people who actually top cut. Hold
on, wait. We're not bringing enough attention to the number next to Adi's 6-1. But see, you guys see, there is a thing called strength of schedule. We sometimes refer to it as resistance, and that number is 46% next to Adi. I do think we're not going to try to shame anybody in Adi's schedule. I had a very poor tournament run. Sometimes things just don't go your way. But I think after playing Adi's opponents collectively went like 1-9 or something.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So basically, Adi's schedule was doomed from the start. It's just every single person that he played against. Because, Adi only had one loss. He was playing people with. You did have a pair down, I think, at some point.
And then
right?
in the last round of the tournament, I was like, "Oh, my res is pretty bad. Like, I'm probably not cutting. Maybe if I get the pair up, I can cut. Maybe if there's a chance that someone loses, or the one person who had a lower res than me, who was X1, might win their match, and I might win, and stuff happens, and I somehow managed to cut." And then I got the pair down. And so I won the pair down and have 46% resistance when the lowest X1 was that made a cut was 59% resistance. So I was a solid 14 percentage points off.
Look, I just want to clarify. This isn't a knock on any of Adi's opponents. When Alex does something like his opponents go 1 at 9 after playing Adi, it's because losing is contagious.
Okay.
And Adi's very used to losing, so
No.
It's a different approach. It's that losing to Adi is demoralizing.
The real reason that it sucks is because at a regional, it's fine because there are championship points. And so even if it's like hard X1 cut at a regional, essentially, which we've had a number of times in 8-round regionals, you still play it out because you want to go X2 and you want to get top 16 points and some packs or whatever. In this tournament, if you lose round 1, there is no reason to keep playing. You cannot top cut. If you lose round 2, you can't cut. If you lose round 3, you probably can't cut.
Doesn't Beanie have a circuit?
Weeks ago. He does, yes.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I went X1 at the one before.
And you lost like pretty early, and you had no shot of cutting, basically.
Yeah, I lost like round 3 or something. It was like
right, but it's like if you lose, like I lost round 4. I didn't lose. I thought that was like an okay time to lose, and I still had an awful resistance because every single one of my opponents from rounds 1 through 3 basically stopped playing after they lost because they had no reason to. And then if you ever hit X2, you certainly don't play it out. And so resistance means a lot less when it's a tournament like this, when one, it's on a weeknight and there's very little reason to play it out after you lose. And so what your opponent does after that you beat them means very little. But I did probably have an easier schedule than most people and probably shouldn't have cut given the rules. So,
To be fair, Adi, you weren't a total loser here because you got the rest of your evening. It was a weeknight.
It was midnight. I got done at midnight. I watched a couple of YouTube videos and went to bed.
Well, I'm saying like
a full night of sleep.
I'm saying you got a full night of sleep. You didn't lose all that and more. All you
can like lose finals and say, "Oh, I guess I gotta go to work now."
Yeah, exactly. You didn't have to stay up until 3 a.m. or whatever when the tournament actually ended. I gotta say though, one thing that I will critique is the best of 3 Swiss. We coming from like the early years of VGC where we were playing best of 1 and crying for best of 3s. Like, we need best of 3 practice. We need more best of 3 practice. And ladder is best of 1 practice. We need more best of 3 practice. Open Team Sheet has changed my opinion on this so much, especially for a weekday tournament. I think if you're running one on a Wednesday, just run best of 1. So that and then you run best of 3 top cut. The tournament gets done so much faster, and I'm a broken record at this point because I've said this on a number of tub takes. But Open Team Sheet best of 1 is totally fine. It's like very reasonable. The games feel fair. You don't feel like you get cheesed. So I think that like for running a fast tournament, one that like you're especially doing the top cut the same day of, just run best of 1 Swiss. I personally won't be angry about it. I don't think a lot of other people are going to be too upset about it. It's still very real practice, and if you want to get those best 3s, make it to cut and commit your night to playing the rest of the night out. But I don't know.
You could do best of 1 Swiss and just have X2s cut. Like, I think that's totally reasonable. It's it's a Wednesday night, man. We don't need the best of 3 practice that badly.
Yeah, like we're just trying to like get some Open Team Sheet games in against players that are taking the game seriously enough to get a team in game and really try to like focus on the matches instead of just clicking on Showdown. So this is just that's just my tub take, my certified tub take TM on weekday tournaments. I think they're awesome. I think it's great that we have this as a practice resource. Just run some best of 1 Swiss. It's casual. It's chill.
Yeah, I'd love to play. I love playing weekday tournaments. It's like pretty nice. Like, just like you don't have to wait all week to play in a tournament.
I'm just responding to Chris in chat. I'm not advocating for regionals, obviously. Best of 3. Like, you're there committing your whole day. It's not regionals are on the weekend. But I wouldn't hate this system for locals if locals or when locals do come back, because those are again done all in one day. If a local was like best of 1 Swiss, best of 3 top cut, if it's Open Team Sheet, I'm still chill with it. So
this is something that Inosh has been asking about for a long time. Is like, what if you just put a bunch of extra rounds and you say it's best of 1, and then you go from there? Like, what instead of having a 5-round local that is best of 3, you can just have like a 9-round local that's best of 1. assuming you have enough people, right? Then that still kind of the top players will still go to the top, except you now have a bigger sample size of opponents that you played against. You're not just playing against. It's harder to like matchup roulette your way through it, like you could in a 5-round tournament. So I really do think that at locals, and also I totally agree about weeknight tours. Just for expediting the process, I don't actually want 12 rounds of best of one twists in a weeknight tour, but at a local, I think that's another cool way to implement best of one if we decide to do it. And yeah, that is how Japan runs their events. That's correct. Leafy Arrow. They run a lot of the online tournaments that we've been looking at from Japan, or I'm not sure if they're online or not, but much of the results that we've seen, they break into pods, have round robin best of one, and then top X make it to the next stage, which is pretty cool.
Here's my idea for just free idea for anyone that's interested in running a tournament. You just run an all day Saturday tournament. If you get like, over 200, 300, etc., just run like best 9 rounds of best of one, and then like do like the day 2 Swiss rounds best of 3, and then just run top 8.
That sounds like a long day, but I guess like because it's best of one, maybe it'll go by quickly.
I mean, surely it's faster than like Nino Pokebros, right? Where it was like 9 rounds all best of 3, and then X2 cut, which was like at least top 32.
I guess there's let's see. So if you're playing, so if you're suggesting 9 rounds and then the day 2 Swiss, which is like 5 more rounds, right? That's 14 total rounds of best of one. You're still suggesting, right? Or is the second day best of 3?
Second day best of 3.
Oh, okay, so then that's 9 plus like 2 games at the very minimum.
Say
so
if like each round's 20 minutes or 25
that's still
minutes.
Actually not that much more. Because 9 rounds of best of 3 is 18 games minimum, right?
Yeah.
Whereas that system you're suggesting is 9 plus 10, 19.
Yeah.
So I guess not that much longer when the first 9 are guaranteed to be single games. There's not even a chance of going to a game 2.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't know. The system's interesting. Adi was mentioning the Enosh thing and Burns' idea. I don't have the critical mind for tournament structure.
I actually have an idea.
Oh, let's see it. Let's see what's cooking.
So weekday tournaments. I get home. No, someone gets home at 7:15, 7 o'clock. All these weekday tournaments start at 7. Beanie this week starts at 6. I propose, not for anyone in particular, but to start them at 7:30 EST so that someone can play in them, not naming names, me, and I would just be a happy camper. So that's my next, or best of ones. I would not complain about that.
You know what? You just got to advocate for a West Coast friendly time. Just be like we're doing this for the West Coast.
Yes, think of the West Coasters. This is what I'm thinking about.
Yep.
All right. Why don't we actually talk about the teams used in these?
We haven't talked about a single team.
So
yeah,
off,
go ahead, Dottie.
Congrats to the winner, Joe UX9, who just barely got in as the 8th seed, which is kind of funny because he actually was he was actually undefeated going into the last round and then lost and was the 8th seed. But yeah, so Joe used a pretty standard team, I think, except Meowscarada was on it instead of some other mons, I guess, other Pokemon that would normally be on the team. But Mimikyu, Arcanine, Garganacl, Meowscarada, Iron Hands, Iron Bundle. Any thoughts?
I think that it's I think he used it in the tournament the weekend before in the finals against Chris. And yeah, I mean the team shares 4 of the same mons in Arcanine, Hands, Bundle, and Garganacl. I think that's just like a very strong defensive core. The Amoonguss replaced by a Meowscarada, so still seeing some grass type representation. And then the Mimikyu, I would not say that it's like chosen over the gold and go for a ghost slot. I think Mimikyu does make the team play pretty differently. Meowscarada also plays very differently than Amoonguss, but I think this is just making the team have some strong offensive, fast, priority options while also having good defensive tools to fall back on from the couple of games that I saw, Joe
Yeah.
is definitely still relying on the Garganackle to end game, but maybe using the offensive Pokemon to take care of the things that can't 1v1 Garg in the end game.
And it's like, guess who's back? Arcanine is back, which
Yeah,
is
true.
I guess you guys covered this too last Hub Takes. But like, yeah, I think there is a clear lean to this defensive core. We'll see it more in Nino's tour. But a lot of fire, water, grass. Bundle is I mean, surprisingly like not in the top eight. There's only one or two Flutter mains, whereas there was like half of it was bundled up. Uh,
Hmm.
I think bundle is definitely become the mon like to beat, but also it's very clear that hands is everywhere as well. Like those are we knew they were gonna be like the three guys,
Hmm.
but it is good to see commonality as someone who's building for a regional. Is just like knowing these are the things I want to beat because it is only what week two of this of series two, and by the time we hit regionals, that'll be week four. So like honestly, I love stats. So please keep entering tournaments so I can figure things out. But that's like the big takeaway I got there. My favorite team actually in this top eight would be Mike's team, Talonflame Tusk, which is the only one in top eight. Uh, I thought it was very cool. I think Talon Tusk is very good into like hand stuff. So that's something I want to see if more players pick up on.
Yeah, I mean, teams are running four or three plus like ground weaknesses. Like Tusk is going to run through them if you can only tear a one Pokemon. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so everybody else is going to get messed up by the classic ground types. Ground types are always. I mean, ground is just a strong offensive type.
And Headlong Rush is such a crazy move. We saw like Garchomp kind of fall off a little bit in Series 1. And so seeing a powerful ground type, yeah, no. That is the Great Tusk is the Mon that I think someone's going to figure out how to break and do really well with in Orlando. That's my, if not earlier than that, if not in some big online tournament for Orlando. But that's like, we talked about the big three Paradox Mons in Bundle, Iron Hands, and Flutter Mane. But I think Great Tusk is the one that can break into that top three, most likely at least.
And you're so close to saying it. You got to finish the statement with "That is my tub take."
That is my tub take.
I think it's actually going to be a point I want to talk about when we get to Nino's tour, because like my mind was just like, oh, like yeah, Tusk is cool, and then look at the Nino's results, and I'm like, yo, I don't want to bring Tusk to half of these teams. So obviously we'll get there
Hmm.
when we do get there. Some teams that do persist from Series One, there's a little bit of Dondozo. I think Dondozo picks up again when we get to Nino's tour. Still some Palafin stuff. So it's like, what do you guys think? Now that we're in week two, like, what are some Series One stuff that you guys think are like here to stay? We looked at Liverpool.
I
Yeah,
think
Um,
looking at this one, we got Rain in second place. Rain with a lot of the same tools, Amoonguss, Palafin, Pelipper, I guess being the staple on Rain. It's the guy that does the Rain, huh? But and then Goldengo, another Pokemon that was on pretty much all the Rain teams. And yeah, this team has just taken two Paradox Pokemon, brought them over to the I guess main old core Pokemon that I think fit very well on it.
yeah.
And then there's teams like Zomog in fifth place here, which is like stabilized screens. There's only one new tool on here in Iron Hands, but I think some of the Pokemon are just as well positioned, if not better positioned, in the new metagame. Volcarona is a cool one because it resists some of the strong offensive types, especially like Fluttermane. And yeah, that's just like a team that we saw doing well in the previous format. And then there's like as we had been mentioning, Dondozo. So there are definitely some teams coming from Series 1 that, and I'm sure we'll see a bit more of that too in the Nino tour.
Mhm.
Shoot.
I think the team that you talked about, Zomog's team, is also notable because one, obviously, he cut San Diego with a very similar team, but also in ninth place, the other X1 that missed cut was River Davis, who also used a slightly different variant with 5 of the same 6 Pokemon as Zomog, and also went X1, so had a really good performance. And I think they have been playing in a lot of online tours. Zomog has been playing in a lot of online tours, and between the two of them, they've been cutting a lot of these online tours and really been like honing in on what the right way to build around like Sableye Volk stuff is. It seems like I mean, they've been grinding this format. I think there are some players to look out for, but also like I'm surprised that I haven't seen more people try to appropriate this team, given how consistently well they are doing with it.
Mm-hmm. No, that's real. That's what Jeudy would say.
So real. And you said that I don't think we have it today, but there was a Sunday best of one tour where that team got like a very similar variation, got like second, I believe. So there are players that are looking at this team. I think the fact that 2 players piloted it and did really well into the first one is on my radar. Volcarona is always a Pokemon. Volcarona even last in Series 1, I'm like, yo, this Pokemon is so good. And then I never built with it. And going in, like even today when I was like looking at Mons, I saw Volcarona on another team. I was like, yo, Volcarona is so good. And then I just stopped. I didn't build with it again. So maybe I should take a note from these guys and actually build Volcarona, because I think that Mon is pretty well positioned.
I don't really have anything else to say about the Beanie Tour. So why don't we go ahead and go over to the weekend one? This tournament was a bit bigger. Remember, it was like probably like a bit over 400, right?
Yeah.
It was like best of 3, best of 3 Swiss, best of 3 cut, and yeah, we saw Ally, or Ally. I don't know if their name is Ally or Ally.
I think the full username is Ally Switches Pain.
Oh, aren't they in the chat here?
Yeah,
I believe. Yeah. Well, there you go. So Ally, I'm just laughing now because Ally Switches Pain is funny. Anyway, yeah, they had a team of Grimmsnarl, Arcanine, Iron Hands, Gastrodon, Sylveon, and Corviknight. So stuff that we saw a bit in Gen 8 certain formats with the Grimmsnarl setting screens for just some, bulky Pokemon that aren't going to go down. Gastrodon, Corviknight. I think, let me double check, don't they both have healing moves on this team? Yeah, Recover and Roost. The Arcanine, Assault Vested, that's a little less typical. Iron Hands, Swords Dance, we're starting to see that take off a bit as a alternate take on the Pokemon. And then Sylveon here. These are Pokemon that are just like all around, trying to trade better damage with you. They're all very bulky, and they're trying to trade damage better with than you are, especially behind screen.
I'm no stranger to saying I hate playing against these type of teams. Like, there's just so much switching, and just like things don't die and they take 0 damage, and it's definitely one of those like teams that's always been around, right? Like this Gastrodon, Arcanine, Corviknight, that was like in Gen 8, like Sword and Shield stuff.
Mm-hmm. That was a Roxanne team from Series 5.
Yeah. So like it's funny to see it here with, unfortunately, one of that guy's Iron Hands. I think I'm glad people are experimenting with Iron Hands. I know, like, the day one vibe was slapping Assault Vest on it, but I'm glad to see more Swords Dance. I think that it just makes sense. That Mon is crazy good. I like Citrus on it. Just more health, because like, why not? This team's already fat as hell. That's like my thing. It's the type of team I hate playing against. So I hope it doesn't pick up. But it got 2 tops this tournament, so I'm hoping on nothing right now.
Yeah, leveraging Iron Hands as a win con, I think, is a lot stronger, a lot better use of his potential than slapping an assault vest on it and saying I'm supporting the rest of the team, just because it has so much stats. Goodness, I don't think there's really anything that can match. There's very few things that can match its bulk. I think 140 is like the highest attack stat out of anything currently legal in the Pokédex. So
The only
just,
Pokemon
like,
comparable is Dondozo, because Dondozo has the same exact stat line, except less offense, but, +2 and everything.
yeah. So if you get an SD off, and like you can just shrug off hits, drain punch, heal it back up. It's just like definitely. I'd put it slot like SD hands as a tier 1 metagame threat that you have to deal with in team building.
Yep.
I'm
We've seen a
agreeing,
bit of
so
that
true.
on some of the other teams. Actually, was that on the Zomog team? Let me just double check. I think they were also using that. Yeah, it's also the Swords Dance hands.
Yeah.
And both of those teams, rely on screens to
Mhm.
make the big threats like Bundle, Fluttermane not do so much damage to hands, and then
Yeah.
Hands eats.
It's just so hard to break, and Damon just has too many stats. The other thing that was cool, we saw it in Liverpool, but with Ndidi Amaroch finally doing decent. It actually there was quite a few Ndidi Amaroch here, which was kind of cool to see. Like finally, people figuring out what they want to do with it. It got second, though that was like a Dondozo 50-50 lead thing. It also top aided Angel B did well with it. So I think that's like another cool thing that wasn't really existent in the last few Series 2 tours, and seeing it here now.
I think that the second place team from Water is so funny because we've seen several Dondozo teams that go just like 2-2-2,
Yeah.
but like this one is just like there were people doing this earlier with like Colossal Dragapult. There was people doing this with the Sand teams, but this one is like the Dondozo duo, the Psy Spam duo, and then just the fastest things in the format. I know Dragapult and Electrode or whatever. Don't come at me. Those are the fastest things in the format.
The fastest relevant things in the format.
Yeah, they just said like 2-2-2. I just love it. Sometimes the Dondozo teams can be as simple as that, and they work.
They do. And I guess it's. I was gonna say one thing. Just it's cool to see, like even though Dondozo's usage compared to Series 1 is like down, it is still a mon you definitely have to respect. And I don't know if it getting lower in usage is good for the few Dondozo like believers or not, but that's definitely still a mon on my radar. Just different because it's you have different tools now for it.
Yeah, like it also, for what it's worth, it did go undefeated in Swiss before losing in Top
Wait,
Cut.
wait a minute. Why is this Terra Bug bundle? Why is this now just being brought to my attention?
Wait, which one?
On the second place team, what?
Yeah, you can. What is the hands gonna do to it?
True.
And Tusk. Tusk gets.
yeah, Tusk gets hard walled, man.
What is going on here? That's crazy. I have to wonder if that was just like, I mean, maybe it was intentional. I mean, they got to second place, but maybe it was just like, this is the bundle I have in game. This is what we're rolling with. I don't normally Terra this guy anyway. Just hit go, confuse them. They'll know what to do. What the bug bundle doing?
I
That
mean,
makes sense. Yes.
is there a type that resists fighting in Electra?
No, I don't think
No,
for a
not
single
on
one.
mine. No.
Yeah, I think another team to bring attention to is the fourth place team. We see Sandy Shocks there. Sandy Shocks is a Pokemon that I think is another cool way to deal with the number of ground weeks in the format. And the other thing on this team that I want to point out is the Fari Giraffe. Fari Giraffe is just seeing a lot of appearances on tops of these tournaments, just like sporadically. I think there's another one in ninth place.
Mm-hmm.
It is just one of the best Pokemon on Semi Room. Supporting your fast Pokemon with priority denial, also trick rooming in the face of other fast teams. It's just a very good Flexmon, and yeah, I think it, like obviously it's just got a really good stats too. So it's not like
Mm-hmm.
you have to worry about it going down to just a single hit. So at the very least,
Um,
it's going to be able to do something. I think that's like a pretty cool Pokemon.
the other day, I was brought to the attention that Farrer, I'm sorry, I can't say its name. It has
Ferrari.
the similar bulk to Amoonguss, which was like, I was like, really?
Hmm.
But like, yeah, they like, I think Amoonguss has like 10 more special defense or one of them. And
Hmm.
it's just like, oh, that is just another mon with a lot of stats that also brings priority blocking. There's a popular fake out mon now, Hariyama. So it's like really cool to see. Uh, Another part of their team was assault vest on the Hydreigon, and there was actually two assault vest Hydreigons in top eight, which I thought was also like really interesting.
Yeah, Hydreigon, not a Pokemon that we've seen a lot of in Series 2, obviously. I say that like it's not week -2 of Series 2, but it is a Pokemon that I think a lot of people thought would fall off because of the existence of Fluttermane and the existence of Iron Bundle. But it turns out that it does actually have a very convenient Terra type and Terra Fire to deal with those, and AV really helps with that. And Snarl is just a really, really good move in this format with Goldengo and Iron Bundle and Fluttermane and
Yeah.
whatnot, all lying around. It's why we see Arcanine everywhere, and I guess it's why we're starting to see Hydreigon on top of that.
No, that's just the cool bit about Terra that we were gushing about earlier too, is like Hydreigon in this format, if there was not Terra types, would just probably not exist as much. A lot of Pokemon wouldn't, but because you can Terramon, who would be four times weak, to deal with a matchup that it would generally have trouble into is like honestly so cool. I'm glad to see uh Hydreigon still hold. It's not like the Mon that it was in Series One, but it does have a niche. I think it's cool that to see it.
That's a good point, Jody mentions. Let's gush more about Terra as a mechanic, but it does just allow you to make Pokemon that would not be viable otherwise, just be viable by nature of like, hey, no, your typing's dog right now. This like you do not want to be a Dark Dragon without the ability to Terra, and yeah, no, it just has that available to it. That is just so cool.
Yeah, and if you look at all these top cut teams, there's really, and as far as fairy types goes, it's just like Sylveon and Fluttermane, and then
Mhm.
like the occasional Mimikyu or Screamtail. Um, so Hydreigon definitely still has, it's not an extremely harsh environment for Hydreigon, but
Mhm.
like also having like access to Terra makes it easier to play into like the potential Sylveons or the potential Fluttermanes.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not. Are there any other teams that are stand out to you guys that you want to mention while we're looking at here? While you guys maybe look at that, I want to mention one thing again from the second place team, just because this is a trend that I've been seeing on in my ladder experience, and I'm just starting to realize, I guess, what it's about, and that's the Fluttermane on the second place team has Power Gem. I've been seeing a decent number of Power Gem, and I'm just like, what is this for? There's no Charizard. What are you trying to do? I mean, like Talonflame, I guess, is a Pokemon, but I think it's just to deal more damage to the number of Pokemon that go for Terra Fire to deal with Fluttermane. I mean, Fairy is the main, like most like strong option damage wise that Fluttermane goes for. Moonblast being its strongest attack, and Dazzling Gleam being a move that it loves to spam. Um, but Power Gem does just deal with like the common fire types, whether it's a natural fire type like Arcanine saying, I can deal with a Shadow Ball, or it's the Pokemon that are Terra like going for Terra into a fire type like Iron Hands and what have you to deal with fairies. It still has that strong damage option. So I think that's like a pretty cool innovation is like running coverage for common Terra types. That's just so fun.
Well, it also I think it might just be Arcanine. Although, I do wonder how much damage it actually does to some of these bulkier users. I know I faced one, and I think
Does more than Shadow Ball.
yeah, it does do more than Shadow Ball, but and I guess it doesn't really have a super profitable move to put in its last slot other than Moonblast, which doesn't really solve the problem.
As long as this guy's running dual stab, just do whatever you want. Dual stab, protect, and then just have fun.
Honestly,
Go crazy.
Honestly, I think on a Dindozo team, if I'm running this, if I have a flex slot, I'm always running Parry Song. I always want the option to be able to kill my own Tatsugiri when Dindozo comes in. I think that's so sick.
That is pretty funny. Yeah, I think I've been seeing some of that. I guess not in this tournament, but I've seen it on ladder, and I'm like, oh, we're going back to this. But I guess maybe you can now. Maybe, but Flutter, we have a good Perish Pokemon. Fluttermane is crazy.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the team that I wanted to talk about that did well is number 16 in top 16 has a Golduck on it.
Golduck.
It's a Rain Golduck team. We've seen all the Rain abusers now. We saw Dreadnought do well, Taurus do well, Palafin of course.
Man, how did this guy not have room for Clear Smog? Doesn't this thing get Clear Smog?
It's Double Duck's back.
Where's the Clear Smog?
Wait, this Pelipper also has Water Pulse.
Yo, hold up.
What?
We don't need Hydro Pump. We don't need Chilling Water. There's a middle ground. You haven't heard of it. It's called Water Pulse. If Hurricane doesn't confuse you, Water Pulse will. Get wrecked. That's amazing.
I just said that Dondozo isn't real. They can't hurt him. Honestly,
No, for real. I mean, I guess at the very least, Sandy Shocks is another Pokemon that can hit it pretty hard if it manages to outspeed it. Tailwind is on the team in Pelipper. Trick Room is also on the team in the Side Spam. So, and then another Iron Hands Hobby for Sword Stance. So, Sword Stance hands. Sword Stance hands. I mean, I'm just mad because where are the swords, man? This guy's not it's not sharp at all. I get that certain Pokemon don't have literal swords like Garchomp, but Garchomp has sharp fins on his arms. Where is swords? It just makes me so mad. Is there no respect for lore?
Where does Mimikyu have swords?
I mean, have you seen what's underneath there?
He can hide anything under his claws.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? I mean, you don't know what's under that.
He sharpens the wooden stick he uses as a tail.
That too.
Where does Venusaur have swords?
I mean, the petals are
leaves.
Kind of.
It sharpens the leaves.
Okay.
The petals are sharp. I don't know, man.
Gross.
I'm just gonna keep looking up Swords Dance Pokemon that.
I mean, it's Swords Dance is weird because every grass type gets it for no reason.
Yeah, because have you ever gotten cut by a blade of grass?
I just wonder if it's a Japanese translation thing.
I think one Pokemon.
Have you seen the animations, Adi? It's pretty literal. I don't know another translation from it that isn't the swords appearing around you from nowhere and dancing. It sounds pretty literal.
Okay, Justin, go.
Okay, so I want to talk about Brute Bonnet. Not just that. I don't really actually see any Brute Bonnets in this Pokebros cut, but it's just such an interesting Pokemon to me because we have all these paradoxes of not good Pokemon. Yeah, what's that?
It got fourth. It's in fourth.
It got fourth, right? Okay.
It's easy to forget it. It looks the same.
It's just interesting to me because all the other paradoxes Fluttermane, Iron Bundle, they're obviously just strict upgrades of unviable Pokemon. But Brute Bonnet is a paradox Pokemon of an already top tier.
Yeah, it is the side grade. It is just do you want your Amoonguss to punch the shit out of your opponents? Because that option is available to you for the low price of Brute Bonnet.
I don't even.
I mean,
you look at the stat; it doesn't have Rage Powder. I feel like that's one of the core Amoonguss moves, right? And
it does have Rage Powder. Well, it learns Rage Powder, but
it learns it. The top 4 one didn't, and that's probably the way you have to run it. You're running it over Amoonguss, not because it's a different Amoonguss. It's because it feels like you're running it in place of Breloom. Breloom in Series 1, where it's this heavy hitting Pokemon that is in a decent speed tier and can click Spore if you give it the turn to. And you have to respect both those options. And so, like, you see this team doesn't run Rage Powder, it runs Protect over it, for example. It can run Close Combat over it. It gets a Crunch or a Sucker Punch or whatever. It gets a lot of good moves. You just have to think of it as a different Pokemon. It gets Taunt. Yeah, I've run into that. That's a great way to switch into opposing Amoonguss, and then if they don't have Pollen Puff, then you can taunt it, I think that it's more comparable to Breloom than it is to Amoonguss. But it's definitely a real Pokemon. It definitely hits hard. It interacts like reasonably well into stuff like Iron Bundle and stuff like Flutter Mane with Sucker Punch. It's chunking it, like doing 60 or something. So I don't know. It's definitely got a place, and it's kind of surprising that we didn't see very much of it.
If there's like one thing, also just looking at all of these teams that is like very annoying as someone that's going to a regional in 2 weeks, is that there's just so much stuff. Like,
It is.
I don't think, I think if we really wanted, we could spend so long just talking about like there's a Breloom T-Tar team. There's like there's a few Menses that also made it in the cut. There's like a lot of just like various good things, and it's really frustrating to like pinpoint. Like there was two Talon Tusk teams that also played Surledge, which is just like, oh, that's a Pokemon that like I have to remember exists. And it is really, I guess that's like the cool thing. The one cool thing about having like so many series is like each series is just like refreshing the metagame, so you get to like see old ideas come back, new ideas. But it's like can you guys like pinpoint, like, beside like there's the Iron Hands like Arc Core, but like some things, like if you were, I guess this is like a viewer question, like what would you want to beat like coming out of like these two?
Yeah,
like
what would you want to be coming out of?
yeah
Everything.
All
of it.
all of it. It is. I get dizzy looking at all of them. Just like there's so many good stuff.
No, for real though. Like before San Diego, I made a list of 10 like common cores that I expected to face, and then kind of like thought about building that way, where I was like, okay, if I see this, what do I have to bring? Like, what combinations of Pokemon do well into it? What pins can I create into it? And for like Maushold Annihilate, Banditi Armarook, Tendozo Tatsugiri, there were a bunch of like really powerful 2-mon cores. And one of the things that I've been struggling with as well is how to really conceptualize the Series 2 metagame, because there are a few teams that are seeming to be popping up more and more often, but it really does feel like there is no rhyme or reason to how a lot of these teams are built. It almost seems like you can put any of these 6 of the top 30 Pokemon on a team with a skew towards the top few. I mean, you probably have an Iron Hands on there or an Amoonguss on there, and your team is pretty coherent. And so not only is building really hard, but also like trying to figure out how your team interacts with the metagame is really hard right now.
I felt that, like, when somebody says, like, hey, here's my team, what is it weak to? I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like, go play with it, because like it is hard. Like, you have like 6 Pokemon of all different types that perform very different roles. So you look good. Thumbs up. Let's see like let's see what the ladder tells you.
You have 6 good Pokemon. I mean,
like I don't know. It's so hard. I mean, like, especially because they gave us 14 Pokemon with 570 BST. There's like so many things that you could do with all of the tools we have available now. There's just so many good Pokemon. And honestly, that's why like I know that can be stressful for some, but it has been kind of the opposite for me. Is that I just like haven't concerned myself with like, what is my matchup into this, and this. It's just like, all right, I got 6 Pokemon. Let's like go try it, and just like just play on the fly. I think that's like something that's just like a Scarlet and Violet thing for me, is that I've been much more able to just like not go into games with a hard set game plan for every team. It's just like, well, let me look at team preview. Let me look at the open team sheet, and I'll figure it out during that minute and a half or whatever. And then during the game, I'll also figure it out. Especially if it's a best of 3, I've got a whole game to like understand the matchup, and I think that that's so much more possible now. So even though the metagame is wide, it's not stressing me out.
And so I guess this is a pretty good pivot into the usage stats that we have for Series 2 that include not just the couple limitless tours that we talked about in this little session, but also I think every single limitless tour that's been in Series 2, or 11 at least different limitless tours in Series 2. And we see all of the usage stats, not only from Pokemon, but also how often they're in top cut, how often each combination of Pokemon is in top cut, and then also combinations of 6 Pokemon that we see the most. And so I guess just reading them off, Amoonguss is up top. Amoonguss, I think a lot of us thought was the best Pokemon in this format, and Iron Hands is up there a second. We talked Iron Hands, Iron Bundle, Fluttermane as the top 3. We see Roaring Moon is actually the 5th most common Pokemon overall, but you see it only as the 7th in top cut, so it's kind of been underperforming. Whereas like Arcanine and Goldengo are a little overperforming a little bit more. King Gambit too. I don't know. There's just I could read this off for days, but is there anything that stands out to you guys?
I honestly, there's like something that's not even related to the Mons that I want to talk about at the top of the sheet, Audie. You had brought up my attention that there's like 11 tournaments, and I saw that. I was like, where did you find that out? And I see the number of tournaments recorded, number of total unique players, 667. I think that's just kind of funny. Like it just makes me realize like 11 tournaments, 667 players. Like there's a fair bit of overlap. That's just kind of funny to think about. Like, how many people are actively playing the game? How many people are just like, just entering tournaments, entering a lot of those tournaments, every week just to keep getting that practice. That's really cool. Mm-hmm. But also, I gotta ask, the data guys. But like, I'm looking at the top row for the first 2 columns, Audi, and like there's a Amoonguss at 41% in all of the teams, and at 54% in the top cut teams. What does that usually mean again? Does that mean like it's got good conversion rate? What do you call that again?
Yeah, you call it conversion rate. And so its conversion rate is higher. It's not exactly conversion rate, but it's pretty much conversion rate. Like having a higher usage in top cut than it does overall means it has a better than average conversion rate. That is normally true of top usage Pokemon. We saw that when we looked at the Liverpool stats as well. Like it turns out that the good players use good Pokemon more, and the good Pokemon are good for a reason, and so they top cut more than the teams that have like 6 in-game Pokemon or whatever. The teams
yeah,
using,
sure.
Iron treads or iron whatever.
So I guess then you look for. So then I guess like to explain it to some of the people that are like less familiar with this, like me, is it then you look for the Pokemon that are generally going even or down, or like some Pokemon that are like low usage, like maybe 10% usage, but with like a really high, top cut usage.
Right.
Is that what you're looking for?
When I'm looking for the Pokemon that have the biggest increase, what is kind of surprising is that when you look at these stats, Amoonguss goes up, Iron Hands goes up to basically the same usage as Amoonguss. They are tied in usage in top cut, despite having a reasonably smaller usage in Swiss. So like Iron Hands is the real big winner there. And beyond that, and Arcanine's the other one that really goes up. I like looking for hidden gems, especially. Doesn't tell us that much to know that like we know Iron Hands is good already. This is telling the people who don't know that it's good. But I'm always curious to like scroll down and look for Pokemon that are pretty low in usage but have a much higher usage rate in top cut. That is like harder to find just by scrolling. I think that one, for example, Pincurchin has only 9 uses total overall in these tournaments out of 1,000 teams. And yet it's got 4 of those top cut. That's a 44% conversion rate, which is pretty crazy across.
That is actually right.
So like that's something that like, oh shit, maybe Pincurchin actually is real. It is converting at a crazy rate for what it is.
Yep. I mean, I do agree. And then like, that's the other thing to be careful of is like low numbers, right? Because low numbers can be a bit misleading, right?
Right.
Not having a large sample size or whatever they call it.
Especially when it's the same person. Evan also mentions that these are from week 1. So this does not include the Nina Pokebros tour from this past weekend. And I think that he has started a week 2 stats, but I think, let me see if I can find it in here.
Is it the next tab over, or is that not it?
It doesn't have exactly the same thing that I was looking at.
No, it's not.
But it seems like we're going to have something for including Nino Poke Bros and all the weekday tournaments next week. But this is so a little outdated, but like still very cool to look at, very cool to see what is a little underrated. Notably, something like Pincurchin is also, when it has low usage, could also be that one person has played in 3 or 4 of these and is just a very good player and has been cutting very consistently. In fact, I think I have seen one person cut with Pincurchin multiple times, and we've talked about it a couple times at this point. So that might also be a reason for that. And that's also a reason for like why some Pokemon have a crazy high usage in the top of the ladder compared to normal, is that one person just spams ladder with it and does very well. So it might also just be that. It's hard to say, but this is such a useful tool to try to find hidden under the radar hidden gem Pokemons.
Under the gem. All right. The last 2 things I'll say about the sheet before we, try to wrap this up and go to question time, is one, Evan the Goat. Evan, you shout out to you. This is just so awesome. Such a great tool.
The goat.
And then Roaring Moon is a Pokemon that like takes a small dip, but I think is like somewhat notable. Actually, yeah, it's only like 2%. But Roaring Moon, I think, is just like a cool Pokemon, a tricky Pokemon that I think is going to take a bit of figuring out to figure out what are the best sets. I don't think you can just take the Booster Energy Acrobatics set, slap that on, and just say like, this is going to win me all my games. But I think people are trying a lot of different things with the Pokemon. It's got so many stats, lower base stat total than Salamence, but because they decided that this thing was not going to be a special attacker, almost like a higher effective BST. And so Roaring Moon is just kind of a cool Pokemon, and I don't know. While it does take a slight dip in the top cut percentage, I think that it's just got a lot of potential.
For a Pokemon that dropped a ton in usage, wait, I just had this pulled up a second ago. Brute Bonnet, we were talking about that a second ago, went from 10% usage down to 4% usage in top cut. So that might be the biggest loser.
Oh no, Brute.
Not Bruce.
Bruce Bonnet. Yeah, I know. I'm surprised we don't call it Bruce accidentally more often, but in our group chat, we often refer to it as Bruce. Probably just like because of like autocorrection stuff or something. But yeah,
just because it's funny.
It is funny
Bruce.
too.
No, that's intentional, all intentional. When y'all Bruce.
No, I meant like when it started.
Not Bruce. C and T are not even close on the keyboard. Like,
all right.
I'm just sad we don't call it Oonga Boongus anymore.
Oonga Boongus is Oonga Boongus. I still try to call it Oonga Boongus every now and then. I do love that name. Yeah. So I guess like I know that Audie's the one hosting, but we're probably gonna start wrapping up. We kind of have some stuff to get to after this. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to fire them off while Audie wraps them up. But if there's anything else you guys want us to talk about, please let us know. Any feedback and stuff.
Thank you for doing that. I was going to wrap us up too, but I was going to ask you guys if you had anything else to talk about with regards to Series 2. Real quick.
No, I think we pretty much covered a lot of my current takes. I have to keep some takes squirreled away for next time. So,
true, yeah.
So keep them coming.
Takes before Orlando, and then
That's true.
Yep.
We do have, of course, an episode next week that will be probably more of an Orlando preview, because then Orlando is the weekend afterwards.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I actually don't know what else we're going to talk about next week, because we got a whole episode.
there's going to be another Beanie Brawl and another Nino Poke Bros. So
I think the Nino, like I said it in chat earlier, but I think that last Saturday tour, the last big Saturday tour, is going to be really big. We'll have 3 weeks worth of information. Like, you'll actually see more things like forming going into Orlando. So
on Friday this. We do have the first Hat Series tour of Scarlet Violet, I believe, is on Saturday.
Yeah. Oh, there's a few tournaments that are coming up on this week. So of course, Beanie is having their tournament on Wednesday, which is again going to be a little longer this time, but it's going to, you're not going to miss cut if you go X1 like I did. Sorry, this is completed. I want upcoming. There are going to be Beanie is also hosting a tournament on Saturday. The Hat Series is going to happen on Saturday if you are basically not a dude. and there's a bunch of other ones that are coming up as well. So Limitless is really useful. It shows all these upcoming tournaments. If you want to sign up for a tournament on any given day, there's probably something happening. At least for me, like if I get off work and I'm like, I have nothing planned, and I'm, don't feel like taking a nap right now. Usually, I will try to play one of these just to get practice in. So, would recommend.
I do love Adi's summary of the hat tour. Just basically, if you're not a dude, just keep it simple, I guess. We have a question from Shadmaster. Any tips for team building? I gotta say that's not a question to ask at the end of the show. It's like way too deep. It's also probably there's just too much to cover. My general tip is go check out VGC Guide. They probably have something good for team building. Otherwise,
go watch every single one of my YouTube videos.
Every single one of Adi's YouTube videos.
Every single one. YouTube.com/CK49 VGC. You will see a bunch of top players like Alex and Justin and Jeudy talk about exactly how they built their team. For
watch the entire Calyrex Ice documentary.
There you go. That's how you learn how to really build a team.
Actually, though, we talked. We went. I mean, it was a 4-hour long documentary, but we did really talk about like in depth how we prepared for every single tournament that season, and we answered a bunch of questions. It really was really useful, even though this format is quite different from Dynamax format. There's a lot of resources out there that we've put out, and as well as other people have put out. Joe's put out some stuff. I think Wolf's probably put out some stuff with VGC Guide. James Back, Cybertron. So there's a lot of resources out there to learn how to team build, but it's not something that we can talk about in 5 minutes on a podcast, sadly.
Yeah, when we get slower weeks, when there aren't as many tournaments happening or upcoming, which I don't know when those weeks will come up. The season does feel like it's just going by at such a rapid pace. Formats changing, tournaments every weekend. But there are going to be times where we'll bring on, we'll bust out subjects that fill those slower weeks and talk about, like what do we think about open team sheet and like how do we team build for the current meta game or just team build with Terra in mind. There's a lot of like topics that I have like in the back of my mind that a lot of them that I covered back on my old podcast, the Hyper Boys, but that would be great to revive and bring back for a modern update on how to just how to go about playing VGC and Scarlet and Violet.
How does it feel to be the region that drives a format like San Diego's impact on Liverpool?
I mean, that's really just the nature of like timing, I don't think it's like necessary. You could say that the U.S. drove there, but it would have been the same in reverse if Liverpool and San Diego's dates were switched. I guess like.
It was like switched last like Sword and Shield when we had I don't know what regional, but Europe had their regional first, and
no, not first.
The
Ultra Series. No, sorry, not for Series 12. It was Australia.
No, I mean for series. At the start of Sword and Shield.
Oh, 2020.
They had the regional, and then we had Dallas. And like Scopeland's kit Togekiss started first being used in Europe, and like the Gravity, Clops, Hypnosis, Gothitelle kind of swept Europe unexpectedly, and then some people ripped it and cut Dallas with it.
I will say though, it does. It's like a hard question to ask. Like, how does it feel? I don't know. I'm very selfishly just thinking about like how do I best do affect my own performance at the tournament. I'm less thinking about like how overall the metagame is going to look or shape, especially because like the metagames go so fast. Something that's always been like a consideration, like in years where the format lasts a whole year long, is like as you get towards that late July, not late July, maybe a little earlier than that, like in May, like Internats is coming up, but you have like a really hot idea. Is this something that you save for Worlds? But I think, with the way that the series come by so quickly, it's just like every tournament, you're just bringing your best. You find whatever team you think is the best at that moment, bring it. I think that with these shorter series, with the I don't know, it just feels like you got to bring your A game every single time. So. I think that's mainly how I look at that. And at the very least, I think it is more fun to play the first event of these formats. That's cool because like things are so up in the air. You feel like you're going to be the person to. I know that we've had a lot of online tournaments to develop the meta, but it feels like you're looking for the hole that people haven't found yet. for the thing that people haven't noticed yet. And while I do like playing in formats that develop over time, that is the first tournament has also just got a very special feeling to it.
I do want to answer the give the answer to the question, like how does it feel to be like in how to be the region that influenced other regions, as the person that single-handedly like catapulted Toxicroak into a meta game a few years ago. Feels pretty good.
Yeah, sure. Just
there's your answer.
yeah, you want to be that person, right?
Well, yeah. As also like it is like that's what I was very quiet when we were looking at the Terra chart, but I was just like looking at all my Pokemon. Then I was just like looking over to the left and then seeing like, oh, I was the only grass Palafin, and then Liverpool had 4, and I'm just like, yes, this is my content that I'm here for. There was 1 Steel Salamence in top 32 of San Diego, and Liverpool had 7, and I'm like, yes, it feels really.
Yes, screw Jeudy for making people run grass Palafin as the like Amoonguss main of all time.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, no, Jeudy, your team had a huge impact. We got one more question here from Alex, which is Payne. Do you guys think Covert Cloak is being slept on as an item right now? I think Covert Cloak definitely gets better in Series 2 with the introduction of Iron Hands. Being immune to Fake Out is really solid, as well as obviously the Salt Cure benefits that people have been coming to realize. Garganackle appearing everywhere, but if you put that Covert Cloak on something like an Amoonguss, you can just Rage Powder redirect that Salt Cure every turn and don't feel any repercussions. Instead, it's just hitting you with a little... It's dropping a piece of salt on your head, and you're like, why'd you do that?
I'm actually very excited to see... I think that answer also, for me, depends on how good Garganackle is. So I'm excited to see Week 2 results and Week 3 as well.
I think there are some... I think there's some Pokemon that like benefit too much from other items. Like Citrus, you can make Citrus Amoonguss like Always Live 2 Freeze Rise from Delibird bundle. Like I think Goldengo appreciates like the recovery option like Citrus Berry or leftovers when it's like plot. So it is. I think it's hard to fit Cloak on stuff. I think like the one Pokemon where like Cloak is the definitive best item is Talonflame. Because being able to block Fake Out as you set like Tailwind or like use a Fast Wisp or Fast Taunt is like really nice.
I also think that and of course, Ala, you know this because you ran it. Covert Cloak Gastrodon is low-key really good as long as people are relying on Garganackle to beat the water types. That was something that was my one loss in Swiss. I couldn't break the Covert Cloak Gastrodon against one of the players in the Beanie Brawl. And of course, you did really well with it. So that is a Pokemon that is maybe a little under the radar. I think Gastrodon maybe always sees a little bit of an uptick early format and then usually dies down. Obviously, Series 12, maybe an exception to that. But Covert Cloak Gastrodon, at least early in the metagame, seemed like a really, really powerful option that hadn't been explored too much. So that is something that I thought was really cool as well. Also, maybe an option on Goldengo because Snarl is apparently everywhere, and if you just don't get Snarled, that's pretty cool. So,
a lot of cool benefits to the item that just come by the fact, like that you're immune to everything, every secondary effect. It's so awesome. Yep.
But yeah, so I guess that seems to be the last question, and we are running a little late here, so I'm gonna wrap it up. If you missed maybe part of this and you want to watch it, you can watch it on Wednesday over on my YouTube channel, CK49. And if you have any suggestions for maybe topics to talk about either next week or in the future, you can comment either on that YouTube video or just leave a message right now, and we'll get into it, or we'll try to get into it next week, or just ask us a question next week. I guess we just kind of talk about whatever you guys want us to talk about. And yeah, do you guys want to plug your socials?
Not on the screen, Adi? Oh, you're such a
It's not on the screen, sorry.
Oh my god.
They'll be in the link in the YouTube video, in the description.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, not on Twitch.
Yeah, no, that's all good. I am at LexiconVGC on Twitter.
I am at Solsir VGC, or you can search my name. That is probably not here because I forgot to change my Discord. But yeah.
You should definitely mute him if you follow him.
Wait, what?
It's the best comment on Twitter. I'm muting Adi after that comment.
Yeah, hold
He's
on.
cleaning up his act. Don't.
Okay.
He
No
said
more
he's gonna.
Don
He
Bozo tweets,
said he's
'cause
gonna be
Don
less
Bozo-
unhinged. Straight. Don't worry, Adi.
Justin, you got a plug?
Yeah, you can follow me at just Mr. Burns on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. And of course, I'm Adi Subra on Twitter. And yeah, that's all we got. Thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you guys for coming out.
I will catch you guys later.
Hell yeah. Ciao.
Peace.